full time here from St James's Park, and Newcastle United are out of Europe after losing 2-1 to AC Milan. For long periods it looked like they were actually heading through at the Champions League to the Champions League Cup round of 16 because they 1-0 up at half time thanks to Joelinton's thunderbolt of a goal here, and the fact that Dortmund had taken the lead as well in the second half gave everybody a little bit of hope through Karim Adeyemi, and then PSG hit back and then had a goal disallowed by VAR, but the fact that Christian Pulisic equalised sort of really sucked the life out of St James's Park in the second half. It really felt like Newcastle couldn't regain their structure, their system, their energy, their intensity that they had in the first half. Pre-game, the atmosphere was buzzing like it was pre-PSG. Obviously there was a bit of a difference when they played Dortmund here, as I sort of alluded to in that reaction video, but here they started as they did against PSG. The Joelinton goal was absolutely fantastic. It gave Newcastle the impetus, gave them that lead to protect, and they carried on and pushed for more. Because Murray had already denied Miguel Almiron on the line at 0-0, which would have given Newcastle an earlier lead. But you know, I don't think this group was decided on tonight's performance. I think Newcastle were very good. They naturally tired later on, but I don't think fatigue in general was an issue tonight, as it has been away from home in recent weeks, and that's been obviously the talking point. I think, to be honest, it's more that they struggled to maintain their intensity levels when up against it, and that's been a bit of a theme for this team. But you know, you've got to learn how to manage these games, and in this group against these three very, very big iconic clubs who've been here for a long, long time, in each game there's been points where, you know, since the PSG game, particularly at home, where they've not managed the game properly and the other team has, and that's ultimately proved costly. There were chances in the second half as Newcastle was stretched. Rafael Leao hit the post, obviously, at 1-1, and then Samuel Chukwueze, after scoring the winner for Milan, hit the post late on as well. Newcastle were fantastic in the first half, and this is one of those moments, I think, that everybody will remember as a starting point. Newcastle will be back at this level soon enough. I think they've shown that they belong at this level, and it's typical of the Champions League to put and the group stage to put on this show in the final year that the group stage exists as it is, because they've just because it shows the drama of the Champions League as it is. And I'm not an advocate for the new Swiss system that's coming in next season, and this is why I think this group has been absolutely phenomenal, as everyone predicted, and it's been a historic group. Given in the second half, you know, as crazy as it is that Newcastle went into this game knowing that if they won and PSG didn't, and obviously it's a huge shame that PSG were, you know, Dortmund did their job for Newcastle tonight. They held PSG, and if Newcastle had held on, they would have been celebrating Champions League football after Christmas. As it is, they've got nothing to look forward to after Christmas, and that's how tight this group is. But also, if Dortmund had scored another goal, Milan would have been through, and that's how crazy and how tight this group was. And it shows that it isn't tired and outdated, this system. And I think the Champions League has got, it's a shame that the Champions League is losing what it's got from this system, because this group has been phenomenal. But Newcastle have played their part in that. Newcastle have it was a brilliant experience to be here tonight, to soak up the atmosphere, to experience what Newcastle did. And that's the crucial thing. We can talk about moments, we can talk about Wilson's miss here against Dortmund, we can talk about Joelinton's miss in Dortmund, we can talk about the penalty in Paris, but ultimately I think Newcastle haven't done enough in the games at the crucial moments when the going's got a bit tough. They've not held their own, they've not capitalised beyond that home PSG game, they haven't reached those levels as they did. And I think as the group went on, they had a great opportunity topping the group on that night in October, and since then they've just not found their rhythm, and it's ultimately cost them quite dearly. There's a school of thought that not being in Europe after Christmas is not the worst thing in the world, because Thursday, Sunday would have been difficult to manage. There is an argument to say that their chances of getting back here next season are greater if they're not in Europe, because of the level of injuries, the fatigue, the intensity of these games has undoubtedly taken its toll on Newcastle this season. Their squad's been stretched, and it's just a reminder that, you know, they're not at the level of the three teams that they were in the group with, and that's, you know, not to be sniffed at. That's not a shameful thing to say when you didn't think that nobody thought Newcastle would be in this position 18 months ago. I know that's an easy thing to say when you stood here at full time and Newcastle haven't got any European football, but it is absolutely true that they've got a long way to go. The club isn't ready for this on a they haven't had a chance to sort of build themselves on the level that Dortmund have and Milan have and PSG have. And I think ultimately those moments of quality, we talk about Kylian Mbappe and Rafael Leao and those players. They've had their moments and they've taken those moments. They haven't shone throughout the tournament so far. They haven't shone in the games against Newcastle throughout the games, but they've made their killer moments count, and they've made their mark against Newcastle. And ultimately, that was the level. It's amazing at this level how if you don't take your opportunities, if you slack off for just a minute, you are punished. And Newcastle suffered that in the second half. It was disappointing to feel the atmosphere drop completely. And it's natural in a way, but the atmosphere dropped completely at once the Milan equalised and PSG obviously equalised as well, and then PSG had a goal ruled out from VAR. It's great to think that Newcastle have stood up to PSG, stood up to Milan, stood up to Dortmund, and you'd have taken being 20 minutes away from Champions League football in the second half here, knowing that a goal would have done it. You'd have taken that before, and it's interesting to see how this group has manoeuvred and how this group has changed. It's been as good as anyone could have imagined, and I think that ultimately it's one of those where you think, on a different day Newcastle would have won here, but on a different day they would have won in Dortmund, but on a different day they would have won in Paris, on a different day Joe Linton scores that goal. Those fine margins have come back to haunt Newcastle, but ultimately I think they've been found wanting by that lack of experience towards the end of these games when, as I say, each game I can pinpoint moments where Milan, Dortmund and PSG have all managed the game better than Newcastle and shown their quality, shown their experience. But as I will say again, that's to be expected. They've been here for years. Newcastle will build and will go again. They reached their peak intensity in the first half. It just fell flat a little bit, and I think that managing games at the key height of games has been difficult for Newcastle to handle. So just a learning curve, and they'll be back again. It'll be quite difficult even to look back on, but Newcastle should be proud. They were applauded off by the fans, and it's been a brilliant ride, and I'm sure they'll be back, as I say. Please continue to like, share and subscribe, and I'll be back next time.